Yes.
the intervention teams.
Right.
I went to the chairperson and said, I'm good with designing behavior plans. I can give you notebooks this thick of academic interventions. I'd love to sit on your intervention team. When do you meet? And they said, well, we meet so and so and so and so. And so I started going to as many of those meetings as I possibly could at all my schools. That's where I started my consultation.
Exactly.
And my position has grown. Now there's 4 sites in our school system, and 2 of them don't want to do anything but assess, and that's all they do, and they're happy with that.
Right.
But I run groups, I do individual counseling, I meet with all my intervention teams. At 3 of the smaller schools, we don't really have RTI teams, it's me and one other person. And I go to the teachers during their planning period, because there's only 1 teacher per grade. I have little island schools. And 1 teacher per grade during their planning period, and we analyze the data, well, they're switching to Ames Web, so a lot of the data is already graphed now, but I used to do all of that. If they have a kid, the teacher has a kid that's throwing a tantrum, and I'm going down the hallway, I go in the classroom and I offer to take the child out, or I offer to sit with the child for a while and help get them under control for the teacher. Then the teacher will listen to some of the other strategies.
Sure.
But this has been 19 years in the making.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
That's
and
great.
I haven't been evaluated in 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a survey based upon your old evaluation
Sure.
that went out to the administrators of the school. Some of them don't even come to IEP meetings. So they often would hand off the thing to be done by somebody else. And maybe out of my 5 schools last year, 2 or 3 actually got turned in. And it's just put in my file. It's never summarized. Unless there is a problem, you don't hear anything. No news is good news. Can't fire you if they haven't evaluated to show that you're not adequate for the position. You know, they can terminate the position, but they can't fire you for not doing your job. You know, if they haven't evaluated you. So we've kind of kept our fingers
But I
crossed.
suspect you, doing all those other things, you also influenced your assessment flow.
Absolutely. And guess what happened? 5 years ago, the number of evaluations that I was doing had dropped below the 75 mark for the 4 schools that I was serving, so they gave me another one as a reward.
You got rewarded, right?
I got rewarded for doing it. And I'm looking at the other sites that are doing 110 evaluations for 3 schools, and I'm like, this is not, there's something wrong with this picture, but it's a matter of, again, what you're comfortable with. The other 3 are a couple of years away from retirement. They're only comfortable, most of them are only comfortable just doing assessments. So,
Yeah.
so I had to go to each one of my schools and get in with that faculty and offer, started by offering help. And then as some of the interventions and things that I was suggesting worked, and it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Yet I still have them. They'll call the intervention behavior management specialist in, just got one yesterday. Called in the intervention specialist, some guy that has some master's degree that did counseling private practice for a while. He's an intervention specialist. He'll know a bit more about how to run a behavior management plan in the regular classroom, but he talks a good game, makes the teachers feel good. Very soothing, very calm, and I'm not. So, you know, teacher like that. And they were processing an application for mental health and to get the kid in day treatment. Guess what? Parent turned down all services. Teacher comes back to me. Can you help me fill out RTI paperwork? I think I need to start tier 1. Because she tried to get out of doing individual kind of behavior things by calling in these other people who were going to take the kid and remove him. And then she didn't have to. You still have those teachers that the answer, their answer of what help is to get the kid out of the classroom. You know, and then there's other teachers that will try those strategies, see they work, and use them with other kids.
So part of it is, you know, it all comes down, a lot of it to, you know, individual choices that we make, you know, in our practice. I don't discount the contribution that people make who only love doing assessment. That's why some people came into the profession, and that's okay. But I think there also should be room for other people who want to do other things other than that. And I think this allows us to do that. Now, is it going to change everybody's practice overnight? No, but it is going to be a tool that we can use.
Another thing we have talked about in our county is the idea of specialization.
Sure.
And I think with the gamut of all the challenges in the schools, as well as all the different roles that
Yeah.
come and go based on money, and other things, you know, that there may be some people that want to focus in a certain area or the others, and then making that be a part of how individually they may be evaluated, if you will, rather than expecting the same from everybody.
And in this state, that's actually not a new phenomenon. There are lots and lots of counties that where school sites are specialized.
Mhm.
You know, autism,
Right.
you know, crisis, preschool, school-based mental health, on and on and
Soccer
on.
teams.
So I know sites in some counties that have, you know, completely different roles, you know, than their colleagues. And those are things typically that they enjoy and they embrace, and their county supports that kind of, you know, specialization among their staff.
But I think if we, not to cut you off, I think though, if we are really gonna get from the new grads to those of us who have been in the field for a while, moving sort of in the right direction, because there is so much variability. We need more staff development for us. I mean, those of us who have years of experience, I rely on some of these new grads to help my game stay up to par with some of the new trends that are in our field. It's really been very challenging to know some of the terminology, progress monitoring, going to websites, getting interventions, the progress monitoring, as everybody I think agrees, we still carry that assessment piece. And I've been in the field over 20-some years. I mean, I graduated in '85. And at least on the coast, we just don't get enough of you all helping to keep our skill sets
Yeah. Yeah.
refined and futuristic. And so those people wanting to assessment, we can assess, and you can assess, you can always find a way to assess, but some of the new trends, and I hope that we can, with the instrument, it'll also have a piece that helps us to stay fresh,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, here, it's a great thought. Here's what you do with it. You work on that at a local level. You tell your regional reps, that's what these drive-ins are about. These drive-ins are actually, you know, for whatever any school sites want in their region. So, you know, you talk to Betty, you talk to Amanda, say, you know, I'd like to have a drive-in on, you know, CBMs or Ames Web or whatever it may be. And the other piece of that, this is what we honestly, this is what we're trying to do at the fall conference. We try to do this at every fall conference.
But budgets have not been, I mean, we used to be able to go, but, I mean, it was like, this year only one or two can go. I mean,
We're gonna have incredible stuff at the fall conference. A lot of intervention stuff. George Bash is coming on MTSS, multi-tiered student support. We're gonna have reading, we're gonna have mental health, we're gonna have math interventions. You know, we're gonna have a lot of good stuff. Okay.
And one of the reasons the board had made a decision about 2 years ago to rotate around the state, because we hear so much from members in the coastal regions. We don't get enough, we're not, you know, we need more here, and so we are really trying to make an effort to do that. And we hear it in the mountain as well, in some of those smaller counties. So we
It's
are
more
bringing
the
fall
coast and,
conference here.
Western part, where you have smaller counties and you just don't get enough. But honestly, the organization recognizes that, and I know any people on the executive board of regional reps or any president would support any kind of training that a group of you say we want. And the other thing that you can use, and we're using this, you know, as a state, you know, the NASP self-assessment. If you get on and you take the self-assessment, that's gonna show you what skills you need to shore up. And NASP is set up so they can aggregate that data by state. So we get that data, okay? Lori Unruh, who's our NASP, representative, she gives that information, she's our state delegate to NASP, so she gets us that information, and we use that, in our planning. So, let us know what you need. How many of you any of you still in school?
I'm doing my internship here.
Okay, internship year, summer out recently, right? So what do you like to do? Do you want to test all day?
But I think assessment has been such an integral part of the school psychologist's identity that now that we're shifting towards the 21st century, it becomes hard for the psychologists who have been in the field to change their identity. And we need to offer more support and sort of shift together instead of saying, okay, this huge wave is coming, just like when RTI came down and everybody thought it was a software program you put on the computer, and now we're RTI. I mean, that's how it was in the schools. It's like, oh, okay, here we go, So it really does, it comes down to, there are budget restraints. We do need to advocate for ourselves. It is harder county to county because there are such small counties and there are such large counties where, yes, you can do wonderful things, yes, you can subspecialize, but in small counties, just like, I don't know where the lady that was talking said, you do have to do assessments only, and that's what they want, and that's what they're used to because that's what they've had for years. So changing perspectives really from the top down, it's hard, it takes a lot of work, it's challenging. But having an instrument that you are working on helps us advocate for ourselves and say, look, these are all the areas we could cover if we had more support, and maybe that will help drive the funding in the right direction as well.
And I'd be first to admit that we have our biggest challenges, in the coastal areas, in the far west with our very small counties, because not only is there lack of opportunity for, staff development, continuing professional development, in some places you're the only person there. So you're not going to share any caseload. Whoever needs assessed, you're going to do it. And I have some counties where I put practicum students where the site, there's only one. So, he has to do preschool, he has to do, all the regular cases and everything else. So, and then we have some very small counties on both ends of the state. What did we identify?
23.
24?
In 23 in the
They're just
coastal
contractors.
that have
24 that
no
have no
sites.
school
That have
psychologists.
no school psychologists,
Right.
and we don't know, if they have contractors or not.
What they found too.
24 LEAs.
Wow.
So they do them all by contract?
Yes.
They do.
And if we map those out, you'd see they're,
They're on the extreme
coastal
state.
and western. Because of very, very small counties. And the reason I said, we can't sustain ourselves as a profession just with assessment in a lot of places. Because if people look at a budget line and they say, well, what's this school site do? Well, they do the assessments. Well, can we contract out? And then we don't have to do benefits, we don't have to do this. We have a history in this state of that happening. And that's what's happening in these smaller counties. So what we're in the process now doing is actually, we're gonna be contacting, those counties and just seeing, how their contracting is going. If some counties actually want to hire a school psychologist, but they can't attract one. And so that's the other piece we want to see. Is it that you don't want to hire a school psychologist, or you haven't been able to attract a school psychologist? Because in some small, remote places, a lot of young people don't want to go. And unless you live there, it's hard. And then honestly, like most students coming out of school now, if anybody asks any of my students or students at ECU or anybody and say, well, you wanna do 150 assessments a year? No way, you know? And so sometimes in those smaller counties, that's what they want you for, even in my area. Right? In my area right there, you know, there's a lot of assessment, you know, going on.
There was a time when Wilson County Schools, with a population of 12,500 kids, we had 2 sites, we basically managed contracts. I can tell you right now, it was an experiment that failed. You can't get competent work.
Oh, yeah.
And you put your district in a compromising situation when it comes to things that are
Yeah.
procedural and, you know,
Yeah.
contract people don't know that.
You just can't, they just don't have the same quality.
No, I mean, there's
can't-
nobody in this room, I think, that would say that a contractor is gonna provide the same services that we would. And, that's why, you know, we wanna advocate, you know, as a state organization.
I have a question. Do you know, like, for the school psychology, or not, the school counselor evaluation instrument, does it include, you know, a role in the problem-solving model? Because I know, at least at, you know, in the county, that the counselors, especially K-8, oversee that process and are the ones, you know, in charge of following up with teachers, with data collection, and putting it in the computer system and all of that. And I know from, you know, just talking to them, there's a lot of frustration because they weren't trained in that, that wasn't their area of interest, it just kind of got assigned to them. And so I'm wondering, you know, what direction their evaluation is going, and is that
Well,
included?
I'll tell you how you can find out pretty quick. Just get
Go
on
to
the
website.
DPI
Is it on
website.
there? Is it up there already, or is it still under development?
Well, their evaluation instrument is being developed, but their standards are there.
I think everybody now has the problem-solving component
Yeah.
that's one of the, somewhere in the standards.
Yeah. I mean,
Even
see,
administrators. have that.
whatever's in their standards are gonna be in their instrument, and it's the same with us.
But that's a local decision to have those
Right.
guidance counselors in charge, right?
Right, and that's why I was wondering, as a state standard, you know, because it is a local decision, how that varies, and
Well,
how that
they
might
have
vary.
had some testing and measurement classes.
Yeah,
Yeah. But,
maybe, I don't know.
well, you know, again, RTI is being rolled out, you know, differently across the state. Now, there is an initiative, that's gonna start in the fall, you know, in this state, that will happen regionally. And the reason I know is because I've been invited to a meeting Monday in the western part of the state to shift, the movement's gonna be shifting from 4 tiers to 3 tiers. And, you know, the DPI has regional trainers out there, which is another great asset for you. I mean, if you want help, you know, in RTI skill sets, that's what those people are for. I mean, I even had, you know, one of them come to my class and, work with, you know, my students just so they could match a name with a face, who, you know, covers the West. But there are also people, you know, in this area. I mean, I think there are 4 of them spread out in all regions. So we have one on the coast, you know, the Piedmont area and the far west. So there are literacy trainers out and there are RTI trainers in the field. And most of those people have experience and they're good people. So there are some resources that you can access there. Take one more and then we'll take a break here.
Okay. Maybe other than Jim, I might have been in the field longer than anybody else in this room. I think I've worked in the same county for 36 years.
We did a year check before we started.
I live in Dare County. And if you want to talk about being in the boondocks, come on out.
I'm with you. Cedar Island, Harper's Island, I'm right there.
My neighbor to the east is the Atlantic Ocean.
see
And
Russian.
I've listened to.
It's where people go when they wanna get away from everybody else, and they're in trouble with
They do the
DSS or.
We've never had the, fall school site conference in our neck of the woods. I mean, you say the coast and you go to Wilmington, you know how far it is from me? 6 hours. So it's not close. It's like for me going to Greensboro. So,
6
when you
hours.
talk about a coastal location, anyway, I worked out there by myself for 17 years. From a time when we had 1,700 students in 4 schools until we had 4,000 in 8 schools. One of the things that's happened in our profession from the very beginning is we were one of the only ones licensed to do intelligence testing. It's bottom line. We're the only ones that can do that. So in the assessment realm, you're going to have to do it. And if you haven't faced it, every one of you are going to face a situation that until you get that done, you're not going to do anything else. Because it's just like, and it makes sense when you think about it from the administrative point of view. If you have, if you were the only certified bus driver in the district, you will drive the bus until you get them all there. And after you get them all there, then you can coach if you want to, but until you're the only certified bus driver, you're going to drive that bus until you get them everyone in school. That's it. Now, you know, and I'm very blessed. There have been times when I wanted to quit, and there have been times like now when I think I've got the best job in the whole state. I grew up there, I lived there. When I went, that building right over there that used to be Spate, or Spate, you know, used to be the Ed Psych building, and I went in there to look around today, and there's not a psychology professor in that building. They're all over here now. But anyway. There have been times, like I said, when I thought I had it worse because I was the only one there. There was nobody else to rely on. You know, I spent a lot of the system's dollars on long distance phone calls, you know, for consultation with my peers and colleagues that all graduated from here because that's the only help I had. Before I went there, they had evaluation services 1 day a month by a clinical lady whose name was Dr. Helton McAndrews. And she was about 84 at the time. And she had invented her own abbreviated WISC. Now, I'm not making this up. I can't even make up stories this good.
The reports are in the file somewhere, right?
I called her. She gave 5 subtests of the WISC and came up with an IQ score. And I said, ma'am.
She lost her
She
blocks.
said, look at the bottom of the page. My name is Dr. McAndrews. I said, yes, ma'am, you got it, baby. So that conversation ended. Anyway, until what I have found is that your favor, or my favor, the position's favor comes and goes as the administration in the district comes and goes. You know, I think that the organization needs to promote our job and its capabilities to superintendents. Superintendents submit budgets.
Yeah, I agree.
Program directors don't submit budgets, they submit their piece of it. EC program directors, most of you work for an EC program director? Yeah. I mean, look at the state's alignment 30 years ago, wasn't there. Yet they put us under the same student services as guidance counselors, school social workers, and nurses. So I tried to realign our own district. I said, no, put me under that supervisor. Oh, no, you know, your time is spent under this person, so you're going to be under there. But DPI's alignment of it puts school social workers, school psychologists, and nurses and guidance counselors in a student services framework. Well, try to do that at your own local level. It's probably not going to work, you know, because you're the only one who can do certain things. So until you get those done, you're not going to have a chance to do anything else. Again, I think our organization needs to support with superintendents. I've been through 11 superintendents and 8 program directors. And the favor of your role and what you're allowed to do is going to come and go based on the politics of your system and how you're viewed, or your job is viewed by the top level administrators. I did 137 evaluations one year out there and got a negative evaluation from my immediate supervisor because there were 7 left at the end of the year that I didn't get done.
Wow.
Now, they didn't bother to look that they were referred May the 15th. school was out June the 8th. All they knew was that there were 7 left over. So, you know, that was one of the days I wanted to quit. What I have seen though, I've served every school in the whole district from Kitty Hawk to Cape Hatteras. My schools are 72 miles apart, by the way, which creates its own challenge. We're from almost the Virginia line to Cape Hatteras line.
Hope you're getting mileage.
How many school psychologists do you have now?
Now we have 4. So our ratio is about 1 to 1,200. And we have done some things there in the last few years because of the favor that our little 4-man group has with the district. We have divided up. Like I said, I have the best job in the whole system. I only do high school kids. Think about that. But I mean, it took me 35 years to get there. But I only serve high schools. So what I do is very different than the school psychologists who serve elementary schools. There is some diversification and expertise among the group that we have, even though there's only 4 of them. These are things that you could work on in your district. At one point though, before I worked only in high schools, I had full range. I had elementary, middle, and high. We had one elementary school that had an excessive number of referrals. Now, to me, and Jim, you may disagree, to me, if an evaluation is necessary, then likely somewhere around 80% of the kids that you evaluate for special education should end up in placement. And I think that's a fair number. You know, it's about 80% of what you evaluate, if it's a legitimate evaluation for special education. But we had one school that they moved me to. I hadn't worked in that school in 3 or 4 years, but they moved me back to it. And it's kind of hard for me to sit still and be quiet. I have for the first part of this meeting, but now I'm on a roll. I sat through the first year because there was a very dynamic leader of the problem-solving team there, and we had known each other for a long time, and it was going to be a power struggle if I really dug my heels in. So you have to pick your battles too. So I sat back and I let the whole year go by, and they just about killed me with evaluations. I probably did 30 out of one school, maybe more than that, maybe 40. But what I did at the end of the year was I did my homework, and I figured out the percentage of students that placed in special education of the number evaluated, and it was less than 8%. So when we cranked up at the beginning of the next year, the first meeting of the problem-solving team, I had my data, I had a sheet for each one of the members, and I said, we did it your way last year, we're going to do it my way this year. You're not going to kill me 2 years in a row. I don't mind doing my work, I don't mind doing what I'm trained to do, but I'm not going to do it just for your practice, just because you think of the ones that didn't place, the same problems existed without any specific intervention to accommodate whatever the problem was. I said, so we're going to spend more time in designing interventions for these kids and less time in evaluating every kid that comes before the team just because you want it done. And sometimes you have to step up and be assertive.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta get in with this.
You have to say,
You gotta get it.
our job is to always not about winning friends. You know, sometimes you gotta make people angry. You gotta be willing to take what comes with it. Not always, you know, I mean, but you can't always be the yes man either. Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself and say, when you look through a 4th grade kid's file and everything in there points to a slow learner, what are you looking at? Maybe you got a slow learner. You know, maybe the curriculum is too hard for it.
All right.
I work with the teacher assistance teams in our county, and we keep data every year in terms of how the process works and percentages. And I know that, I think that's an excellent thing because the psychologists, we've done that for years in terms of what's our percentage and hit rates and that kind of thing. But actually with the tiered model that we're doing, which is not the technical RTI, but is a tiered model, whatever, you know, just recently the percentages of those students that have been identified is up significantly, so it would support what you're saying. And again, I think that that type of information can speak to administrators and say, look, the intervention process and what these people can do in it is more valuable than testing everybody and,
Kinda
again,
what I
the
talked
fifty
about in
percent
my
hit
class.
rate. Huh?
Data rules.
And that's-
So if you got data, you can make a case. If you're just in there,
Right.
you know, doing, you know, reflection, you know, or
Or I
self-report.
wanna be.
Yeah. Let's take a break. I know you guys are power sitting.